All right, everyone, you are welcome. And today we're going to continue in our discussion on some rules for writing the four-part harmony or for writing for the complete choir. And today we want to talk about more rules for doubling notes of a triadic chord, right? So let's get right into it. Now, let's talk about when to double the third. Like I said the other time, the third is just like a sweetener, but you can also double the third in some cases. But let's see the best way to double the third, right? So you can double the third in chord 6. When chord 6 is progressing to chord 5 or vice versa. But there's a way you should approach it. So these two doubled notes should be approached and quitted in step to contrary motion. Now, you see what I mean? The third of chord 6, which is C in this chord, right? So the chord is A, C, E. So the C is the third, right? In this case, C features in soprano here. So it goes up. It means that the second C should come down, right? So let's see how it goes. So in alto, we have the fifth, yeah, this way, and we have C going down in tenor. So in soprano, we have our C going up, right? And in tenor, we have the C going down. So this is how you should approach the doubled third in chord 6. So we have chord 6 going to chord 5. Right, so this is beautiful, this is sweet, right? So this I should be approached. In all we have, and beautiful. All right, so the leading note should not be doubled. So if you are using chord 5, you should not try to double the leading note. It's not really very good, right? In this case, the leading note is B. I've done a video in the past talking about the technical names for every note of a scale, right? So the seventh note of a scale is the leading note. So you may check this link video to watch a comprehensive lesson of the technical names of notes of the scale, right? Okay, so the leading note here is B. We end up doubling it here, and it's not too good, right? So you have T, Do, and T, so no, too much of it. So it should be avoided. So you can double either the fifth, you can double the root, or you can triple the root, but keep the third, right? We're having adjustments, right? So we have T, Do, that's all. Don't have T, Do, T, so let's see how it sounds. So let's see the first one. T, so we have T, Do, and T, so too much, right? It's too much. So to correct it, we have our T Do, just T Do, so that we have the two sounding this way. Beautiful, right? Unlike right, unlike that. So we have perfect harmony, beautiful, right? So these are the best way to approach note doubling while writing for four parts harmony, right? Again, you should always think of doubling the root of any chord, be it a primary chord or a secondary chord, right? You should always think of doubling the root. If that doesn't work, you can double the fifth, but always keep the third, right? And you can also triple the root, but always retain the third. And if the leading note appears in a certain chord, don't double it. So you can have the leading note in chord 5, you can have it in chord 3, you can have it in chord 7, right? So don't double the leading note in all these chords. Instead, you can think of doubling the root or the fifth. Let's continue from there. We also have other examples here. Let's see chord 7 going to chord 1. So don't double the root of chord 7. So don't double this guy here. the best note to double is the fifth in this case. So you have the soprano going this way, you have the alto tenor this way, right? So this is correct. But let's see what happens here. Okay, if you see the distance between tenor and alto is more than 1 octave, so it's actually wrong. So you should try to avoid this. Okay, so let's see how to correct it. So we have it this way. So you can have the first inversion of chord 7 of the leading note chord, right? So you can have it in the first inversion. So this is better than this, right? Let's try to compare the sounds. So we have chord 7 going to chord 1. Not too good because the distance between tenor and alto is more than 1 octave here, right? So to correct it, so we have the first inversion of chord 7 this way and chord 1. Beautiful, beautiful chord. And beautiful example of a perfect cadence. Now let's continue. How will you double notes in the seventh chord? Of course, we have the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. So we have our complete 4 parts, right? But there are other ways to approach the seventh chord, right? That is, in this case, you can always do away with the fifth, right? You can do away with the fifth and still double the root so that we have the root twice, the third, and the seventh itself, right? So let's see what happened in this example. So in this case, what we just did was to have all the notes. So we have the root, we have the seventh here, we have the fifth, and we have the third of the chord. So this very, very much okay. It's correct. Perfect chord progression. So we have chord 5, 7, going to chord 1, right? So it's also very much okay, right? But let's talk about omitting the fifth in chord 5, 7, right? So you can also omit the fifth. Why? You double the root. So in this case, we just end up doubling the root, right? And doing away with our D, the fifth. So you can do away with it and the chord will still make a lot of sense, right? So we have chord 5, 7, and we have our chord 1, right? So very beautiful. Either you have and, or you have and, it's still very much okay. But remember, the seventh resolves downwards in both cases, right? So far so good. We've talked about how to double notes in harmony. We said that the best note to double is the root. So you can also double the fifth, but don't omit the third, right? You can also think of tripling the root while you retain the third, but you omit the fifth. So all these are still very, very much possible. If your leading note appears in a chord, don't double it, right? Don't have two leading notes. And I also mentioned that you can double the third in chord 6. That is if chord 6 is followed by chord 5 or vice versa. But you make sure that these two doubled notes should be approached and quitted in step to contrary motion, right? And we also talk about the seventh note chord. In this case, you can omit the fifth totally and double the root, right? So we'll see in the next one.